Jackie, thank you for sitting down with me.
Yeah.
Follow up on the conversation we had the other week.
Yep.
And appreciate the time on this, but start us off. What did you do prior to real estate, and kind of how did you get into real estate?
Okay, so I was in communications and marketing for Town Square Media for 11 years for what people know as 95.7 KCJ. So marketing communication through a radio station.
Okay. And you were there for how long?
11 years.
11 years. Perfect. What about real estate attracted you?
I always kind of had a love for real estate because when I was 19, I purchased my first home because I couldn't find a place to rent. And on a whim, my boss said, go see if you can apply for a loan. And I thought they'd turn me down, and they approved me for a very small amount, and I found a dump of a house. Long story short, I renovated it, sold it years later, and I remember the equity that was given to me when I sold that house was life-changing at that moment for me. And I just remember thinking that everyone should know about this opportunity that they could have in real estate, because I felt like I was a nobody with not a lot to offer, that was being given a substantial amount of money to move my life forward.
Right. And that sort of became that life-changing event that sort of, you didn't get licensed right thereafter. It was another amount of time before you got, but that experience never left you.
That experience never left me, and I loved the process all the way through finding the house, renovating it, making it my own. It was the only thing I had at that time in my life that was all my own.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to share that with other people, and I didn't know how to translate that as far as how everyone should know about it. I just knew that everyone should know about equity in real estate, and so me getting licensed would happen years later.
Yeah.
And I wasn't prepared to be licensed at that time.
Right. Right. But I mean, we're sitting here like, it's like 8 years into your career,
Mm-hmm.
and you really have. I mean, we looked at the numbers, and it's hundreds of people that you've helped.
Yeah. And I love my clients,
Yeah.
and I love real estate. I really do. And I knew that when I sold that house.
Yeah. That's so cool.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go back to the beginning. You got into real estate,
Mm-hmm.
right? You had that moment that changed your life. You finally do get into real estate.
Yeah, get licensed.
Walk us through, because a lot of people have sort of a slow burn when they get into real estate, but yours is a little bit of a different story. You get in
Mm-hmm.
late in 2017.
Mm-hmm.
You close about 5 or 6 deals right out the gate. You close
Right.
out 2017 with about 5 or 6 families served,
Right.
and then it's 33 in full year 2018. So
Yeah.
what did you do that led to the success so quickly, do you think?
Well, it wasn't just me, first of all. I had some help.
Sure.
And let me just say, when you come out of pre-license and you get your license, you think you would know what you need to know to practice real estate, but you don't know anything.
Right.
And I remember being very aware of that and knowing that I needed help and needed education. And so I had help from Nicole Gaviola. She checked my first couple contracts, and they were written incredibly wrong. And I learned so much. And then Tanya taught her forms class. I mean, there was a lot of KW classes. I just remember being in class and in the office a lot, trying to absorb as much as I could.
Mhm.
And then my old work family supported me. And that, if I talk about it too much, I'll tear up, because my first few transactions were from them, like my old coworkers.
Yeah.
My first listing was co-listed with Nicole, and he was my old boss from the radio station. One of my second listings that would have been in that first year, one of those 6, was also a coworker. Another one was a coworker's grandpa. So my old work family really supported me, and they didn't know if I knew how to practice real estate, but
Right.
they trusted me, and I took that very seriously.
Yeah. Well, I think when we talked the other week, that was interesting, because I don't know that people really care how much you know, per se, but the people that you worked with initially knew who you were.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mean like, oh, I know Jackie, but they knew you had integrity,
Mm-hmm.
you were honest, you were hardworking,
Mm-hmm.
you went above and beyond at the job when you were at the radio.
Mm-hmm.
And I think all those characteristics, when you got licensed, they were like, well, whatever she doesn't know, I know she can pick up, but I've got the integrity and the backing of who Jackie Walker is.
Their relationships were so important to me. If I didn't know, I was going to find out. And
Yeah.
I was going to find out from the best seasoned agents I possibly could.
Yeah.
And in that process, I learned so much and how to serve everyone a little bit better.
Yeah. Well, I just think it's interesting because you're sitting now here 8 years later, obviously been very successful. But that origin story, I think, is so important for some of the newer agents who come into the business and they go, I don't know anything. Really, yours is a story of leaning into the people that know you.
Right.
And so you had that little bit of success with the people from the radio station.
Yeah.
But you shared with me when we sat down kind of how you conducted your business week in and week out. And would you share what you did and how you kind of made those phone calls and how you drove through the people you knew and letting them know that you were in real estate?
Yeah, so a lot of people think that my clientele came from being at the radio station.
Being the personality.
Being the personality
Yeah.
on the radio station. That's 100% not true.
Yeah.
I've never received a client from a listener, per
Yeah.
se. I did receive clients from my old coworkers, but when I first got in and realized that I needed to be telling everyone about that I was in real estate, I took a class called Bold at KW, and it was about having conversations around real estate.
Yeah.
So I made it my mission to be in the office as much as I possibly could and have as many conversations with the people that I knew in this community and just simply telling them, hey, I left the radio station, I'm in real estate, I'd be happy to help you. Do you know anyone? There's a script. Do you know anyone looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate? And it was people that I had known through lots of different various community groups, like my kids' school or my job before the radio station, which was at a coffee shop, and they were regulars there. I did a lot of that through social media, but I remember sitting in the cubicle just like hammering it out all day long, like trying to make appointments with people, trying to take people to coffee, not to sell them something, but just to tell them I was in real estate.
Yeah.
That was my goal.
And it worked, right? I mean, it really, the numbers don't lie. Again, it's 33 transactions your first full year, it's 37 the next year, and you've really been incredibly consistent. And it does seem like yours continually goes back to that. You are serving the people that know you and like you and trust you, and you've obviously expanded that over the years, but yours is truly like a database, sphere of influence, helping those that are in relationship with you.
Yeah, and a lot of my clients are complete strangers, and they've come from, because that was the first few years of the business. That was the 6 transactions the first year.
Yeah.
But then that catapults into referrals.
Yeah.
And those referrals I don't have any relationship with, but I love the business, and whoever's sitting across from me or who I'm showing houses to, I'm so excited for them because I know the investment that they're making for themselves, which is what I made for myself and I didn't know I was doing when I bought my first house.
It goes back to that equity.
And so I could talk about it all day long because I get so excited about the opportunities that are there for them. You don't have to be anybody to take advantage of real estate. You don't have to be a doctor, lawyer, have a college degree, have a family name, which is huge in this town. You can just be anyone.
Yeah.
So cool.
And you can have that, again, that life-changing moment happen there. So walk us through. So again, you dive in, you work with your people, you take that class Bold, you practice what you preach. I'm going to call my people. How have you stayed so consistent over the years? And not to pour everything back to the numbers, but again, you're always in that 30 to 40 units. You're always serving 30 to 40 families every single year. Obviously, that's led to an incredible lifestyle for you and your family. What do you attribute that consistent and sustained growth to?
Well, number one, I love the business and I love the clients, so my focus stays on them. The other thing is follow up. I learned somewhere, I'm sure it was from a seasoned agent and a couple of them, that follow up is key, communication is key. There's a few agents in our office that do systems and tools really, really well. I am constantly trying to do them very, very well, but that's not my strong suit. I think my strong suit is that I care about my people and then I communicate with them and then I follow up. And I think that's probably why the numbers stay. But I love what I do too. Like, I get up every morning and want to do this and want to work. So if you're working, the business will kind of stay consistent and come
And that passion's still alive. I can hear it, but it sounds like it's as alive and strong as it was,
Yeah,
you know.
in the very beginning.
Yeah.
It's even more so now because I know I'm gonna serve them well.
You know more now.
Yes.
You know what you know, for sure. Growing pains over the years. What have been some of the pains that you've gone through? Because again, I would say most agents sort of like, I have X amount of transactions and it's sort of slowly, but you went from 6 to 40, like
Yeah.
overnight. So what
Yeah.
would have been some of the growing pains?
Oh, there are pains. So the balance between being a mom
Mhm.
and being a real estate agent, I didn't know what I was getting into. It's very demanding of your time, and when you're making those clients a priority, it can take over your entire world.
Yeah.
And so that was the biggest struggle for me, is balancing that. And I remember sharing that with my peers in a bold class.
Yeah.
And I would get emotional about it if I talk about it in detail again. But it was very hard, especially in 2019 and 2020. And that would be my biggest struggle and regret too.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't balancing it well at the time. I'm better at it now.
How have you put guardrails on that, if you will?
You have to set boundaries, and that's unfortunate because I want to be there for my clients no matter what, no matter what's going on, if they need to talk for an hour and a half because it's an emotional thing. But I only have from like 7 p.m. to 9:30 every night with my kids.
Yeah.
My kids are teenagers and they are gone a lot. And so that time in 2020, I would have been working during that time.
Yeah.
And now it is solely dedicated to my kids.
Yeah.
So I've had to set, I've had to learn to say no. And agents aren't good at saying no.
Yeah.
Good agents aren't. And it was painful to work through that process.
For sure. So that leads to the next question is what would Jackie today tell Jackie 8 years ago? What advice would you give to yourself?
Well, so much, but specifically to the business, I would say that the business will always be there and time with your kids won't always be there.
Yeah.
And in 2020, I remember wondering if we were going to have jobs in 2021.
Right.
So I was trying to, make as much money as you possibly could and serve the people that were coming to me. People were coming from out of state in kind of dire situations and you wanted to help them. And I wasn't sure that I would have a real estate career beyond that. And I didn't trust that I'd have a real estate career early on in my career, right? Because I was trying to establish the business. So I would tell her, like, you are going to have business the next year. You are going to have business in the next quarter. Like, it's okay for you to not work during those evening hours.
Yeah.
That's the number one thing I would tell her.
Yeah. So what I hear there is just be where you are, right? When you're at work, be at work, but when you're at home,
Yeah.
be at home.
Yeah. And and take care of yourself too,
Yeah.
because the stress that comes with growing that fast can make your health and everything else not a priority as well.
Yeah.
So I learned a lot about life.
Yeah.
About running a business and being a mom and being a wife, and
Yeah.
it's more than you think it is.
Yeah.
You think you're just going to get your real estate license and you're just going to do it and it'll figure itself out, and then you're drinking from a fire hose for 2 years,
Yeah.
and before you know it, you've made all kinds of mistakes, not with your clients necessarily, but just things you do differently.
Sure. But I think that's life, right? You don't really know until you're in situations like that, and
Mm-hmm.
that's how you learn. And
Mm-hmm.
you're not making those mistakes today. You've course corrected and
Right. No.
reprioritized and
Yep. The balance is there, but
Yeah.
it took a while to get to. And it was nice because when I told my struggles about the balance between work and family, there were other agents at Keller Williams that were experiencing the same thing, other moms.
Yeah.
So that was nice.
yeah. Well, in my position, when I talk to a lot of agents, being an industry that is dominated by women,
Mm-hmm.
it is something that a lot of other realtors deal with because they do have families at home,
Mm-hmm.
and there is this, I want this big life and this big business, and yet I still have this calling to be
Yeah.
to be a mom.
And it's a nights and weekends business.
Yeah, it
you
is.
You can kid yourself all you want that it's not, but people want to talk to you at night.
Yep.
And people want to see houses on the weekends.
Yep.
And when you have kids that are in school and in sports,
Yeah.
they're only home on nights and weekends.
You brought this up when we talked the other day. There's that contract in bold.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was kind of a relevant thing to have. And I think it's important. It's because I think there's this thing of like, my life will be balanced.
Yeah.
But I do think there's this, sometimes home calls more and sometimes work calls more. But there's that contract in bold that you kind of went to the family and you say, hey, I need you guys to have my back for the next little bit.
Yeah.
You know? And I think there is those give and take where you can, you're gonna have to go home sometimes and say, guys, I've got a lot of stuff going on right now. I love you, but for the next, whatever it is, week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, I'm gonna be over here.
Yeah.
And then shifting that balance back to saying, okay, I'm gonna shift off some of the work stuff and I'm gonna reprioritize my family time.
I do love that contract, and I encourage all agents to have that conversation with their families.
Yeah.
I didn't have that conversation to that extent with my family. I was just trying to do it all.
Right.
And having a support system, having your family support you if you're going into real estate is very important, and it's hard for a family to support.
Yeah.
This career.
Yeah. But that backing is so important.
Yes, yeah, to have some back. And there were growing pains there with my family for sure, because they just, I think my boys probably, and my husband included, just wanted me to be a stay-at-home mom, and that's just not who I am.
Yeah.
So that was hard.
Yeah. And again, you didn't slow roll it. You kind of came in and.
Oh yeah, like a bull out of a china shop.
Yeah,
you know.
you definitely went after it.
So bless my family. Yeah.
But I think that's awesome. I think the core takeaways here are have those conversations with your family, know your priorities, and then don't fear your sphere of influence. Like, go to the people that know you first, and that will open so many doors to people that you don't know, but it's the people that they know.
Yeah, and it can be a small handful of people, because the sphere that helped me start was a small group of people.
Yeah.
It wasn't like all 33 that I closed that second year were people I knew.
Right.
That is not true at all.
Right.
So, but it was working the business after you got those opportunities.
Yeah. Well, Jackie, I appreciate you sharing this story because I think it's a great story.
I'm glad you have interest in